Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve and I have an issue with models or algorithms that recommend players for FPL teams. But before we get into that, I'll give you a very quick bit of background about me. So not too long ago, I became an uncle, which had me contemplating the many responsibilities I have recently inherited. And during this time of contemplation, I was thinking about how best to have a positive influence on my young nephews' lives. And I realized just how much value and benefit playing football had for me as a kid, a teenager, and throughout my adult life while I was juggling my professional career as a software architect and manager, doing extremely long hours in front of a computer. So if you're new to this channel, I am a software architect, and in my professional career I was the manager of a large dev house team responsible for constructing a greenfields ERP system that we built for a multi-billion-dollar customer. Now, the only reason I'm actually mentioning my software credentials at all here is to provide some context for my views about models or algorithms, or as some even go so far as to claim as artificial intelligence. Now, in terms of use cases for when someone might use a model, I can really only see a few reasons why an FPL model might be an acceptable thing to use. So, if you're brand new to the game and you don't know the players' names, you don't know what's considered expensive in each of the positions, and you don't know what kind of structures work in terms of price points, as well as pretty much everything else that goes into putting together an effective FPL season. So you're basically a straight up fresh newbie to the game. So given that FPL is a game of patience and planning, and that there is a pretty steep and unforgiving learning curve for newbies, if they set up their very first team wrong, their whole season will suffer as a result. Now, on a side note, I actually think the 5 transfer rule change will actually help these players, but I digress. So I'm not saying that newbies should be looking at a model every single week, but to help them get off to a good start, it does seem justified given how FPL works as a game. Now, another reason to use a model is if you are retroactively looking at past decisions as some sort of form of training or learning in order to get better at the game. And finally, if you happen to write your own model and design all the rules, inputs, weighting factors, and all manner of other software techniques to arrive at a computer-driven decision, then by all means have at it, as this is your own design. However, past these 3 use cases, I can't actually see how using a model is anything but a form of cheating. Like, straight up, it is copying someone else's answers. Now, players that use models to give weight to their own FPL decisions are doing so blindly, as they actually have no idea what rules the developer has coded into the various algorithms that exist out there on the internet. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these models can be very strong, which is incredibly tempting as it is a way to artificially maintain a high rank history. But using a model very much detracts from what I see FPL is designed for and why I actually like the game so much. My love for FPL comes from the fact that it is a great way to watch football and find your favourite players in the various Premier League teams and invest in them by bringing them into your own FPL team. This not only boosts the viewing experience of actually watching football for the players that you have invested in, but it also enhances the experience of watching the football for players which you do not own. Anyway, back to me recently becoming an uncle. So part of the reason that I started this channel is to help people get into watching more football in the hopes that they will one day get out onto the pitch and actually play the game. Now, these are some of the hopes that I have for my young nephews once they are old enough to play. Now, as such, the content on my channel tries to focus on what's actually going on the pitch, how that is reflected in the statistics, as statistics are actually also incredibly deceptive, and how we can get an edge over what seems to be swaths of people who are relying on models. Plus, models aren't actually the be-all and end-all. Models are typically very bad at the start of any season, as they only have last season's data as the input that they are using to drive their recommendations. They have very little in terms of considerations for everything that happens both on and off the field. For instance, last season, the models would have been recommending Manchester United players relatively heavily, whereas if you were actually watching United in pre-season last year, you would have been very aware that the football was pretty dire, which was something I was quite vocal about on my videos last season. Now, models can't cater for this type of situation, as you'd need to define some sort of input to give weight to the decisions that the algorithm arrives at. Now, I don't quite know how you would define X club in turmoil very well. Not to say that it can't be done, but no models out there are probably catering for anything like this. And I'm also not saying that this was the only reason that United were playing bad last year. We did and still have some dead weight in our team, which is something that needs to be considered in our FPL decisions. So, if you are an eye test manager like myself, or are interested in learning how to translate footballing actions into FPL points, I invite you to check in on my upcoming Ones to Watch videos. Now, the Ones to Watch series will include a short list of both personally selected and statistically noteworthy players that need scouting ahead of any upcoming good fixture run. Now, in these videos, we will cover football analysis from the FPL candidates that we have scouted, explain how football situations translate into statistics from a software literate footballer's perspective, tag any outstanding performances from prospects that we should be adding to our watch lists, and note any poor performances which may affect the assets which we own within our teams. So, excuse me, if you are interested in this type of comment, let me know by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. And if this gains enough traction, I will consider doing some live watch-alongs throughout the season, where I will aim to give running commentary on the game live, often arguing with the commentators as I do so in real life when I am watching the football at home myself. However, I am in a New Zealand time zone, so this would be at about 2 a.m. local time. But if there is enough interest, I will give it a go. So again, let me know if this sort of content is of interest by dropping me a comment on this video and checking in on the Ones to Watch videos coming to you quite soon. But that's it for this video. I will see you all again next time.